agree. I don't want to relitigate it here. It's well documented. But let's back up for a moment and just, when Coinbase went public, which really wasn't that long ago, Coinbase was trading XRP. They enabled consumers and businesses, whatever, to trade XRP. The SEC had to approve their S1 such that Coinbase could go public. The SEC now seems to take the position when they sued us that, hey, XRP is a security and always has been, but they approved Coinbase going public even though Coinbase is not a registered broker-dealer. So there's some contradictions here of the SEC almost not within its own organization knowing left hand, right hand. For me, it's always been pretty clear in my mind, a security as defined by the Howey test gives you right, title, and interest in governance rights. So when Ripple does have shareholders, right? We did a Series A financing, we did a Series B financing, we did a Series C financing. Those people have right, title, and interest. They have governance rights. People who buy XRP don't participate in that framework. And so, I think it's very clear that the SEC, instead of doing the hard work to define a new set of clear rules, a new set of clear regulations, both from the SEC and really the US government in general, they've instead decided, hey, we're going to do we're doing regulation through enforcement. Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, has been prone to say the crypto is the Wild West. I mean, I don't know what he means by that. I mean, Ripple as a company is regulated both in the United States and other global regulators in a whole bunch of different ways. So I don't think it's the Wild West at all. I think crypto certainly is a volatile asset class, but it's also worth noting that, from the NASDAQ composite hit a peak right before COVID and then was down 55% after COVID. And by comparison, crypto's down maybe 65%. All asset classes have a certain volatility. I don't think it's a regulator's job to determine how that volatility should be, accessed by consumers, by businesses, what have you.
On the stage tonight, you will see a live simulation of a National Security Council's Principals Committee meeting at the White House. Our scenario takes place 2 years from today, on November 19th, 2021. We have simulated a world in which one big thing has changed. In March 2020, the People's Bank of China launched a sovereign digital currency known as the digital yuan.
We're hearing reports that North Korea may be using China's digital yuan currency to evade sanctions and purchase weapons material.
Well, the digital yuan is an opportunity for the North Koreans to break free of the American hold on dollar transactions.
We're in a tight spot. Our major means to contain and deter the North Koreans has been financial sanctions. And now that's imperiled by the fact that North Korea is accessing the digital yuan.
I wish I had better news. Fundamentally, our ability to sanction North Korea in a devastating way depends upon Chinese cooperation.
We're more reliant than we have ever been on not our coercive power through SWIFT, but our persuasive power with the Chinese. And the Secretary of Treasury has already made that clear. He prefaced his remarks by saying he has bad news. I guess I have worse news, which is that we have 30 years of history of not persuading the Chinese to use their leverage.
One of the questions that the president has is, can we definitively say that the Chinese have the ability to see these yuan transactions that the North Koreans are using?
I do think that the digital yuan is totally transparent to the Chinese government. People's Bank of China initiated this several years ago, basically to compete in their domestic payment space with two big tech companies. Alibaba with Alipay and Tencent with WeChat Pay.
What we talked about so far, I think, is the Chinese government, and there's another actor involved here, which are the Chinese commercial banks. That, as I understand it, the way the digital currency is structured, Chinese commercial banks are in the middle of it, and they have an interest in doing business in the United States. And so at some point we need to think about what kind of pressure and other tools can we use to focus on those banks and their interests in the United States.
Breaking news out of Brussels this evening. A cyber attack on SWIFT The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication has resulted in the theft of $3 billion from commercial banks based in Germany, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
So the old system just isn't cutting it anymore. And unfortunately, the trajectory of that is that it's just going to keep on getting worse and worse and worse. And so, yes, we see China with the yuan, but the competitiveness of the US dollar is a matter of national security, and we have to take this seriously and continue to innovate.
Secretary Summers, are you suggesting that the U.S. create our own digital currency, or just that we work on SWIFT, we stick to our current system, but make SWIFT less vulnerable to cyber threats?
We need to make a secure SWIFT. Look, SWIFT is digital. It's all binary. It's all electronic communication. So there's a question about what the definition, what we mean by that. But my proposal is that we harden SWIFT, that we commit with respect to avoiding what other countries see as abuse of SWIFT, and that we make clear that where there are SWIFT transactions involving North Korea or involving other rogue nations, we will use the leverage associated with SWIFT.
We tend to think of the only things that are provocative to the Chinese as our naval forces or military exercises. But if we build the kind of system we're talking about and have even a stronger dollar-denominated global currency system, whether it's electronic or digital, it'll be even more provocative, and we will be in a longer death struggle with the Chinese. I would argue that we revisit the G2 concept that we had talked about in the early days of the Obama administration.
Us off, the European Union ambassador, you've done a great job with the cocktail parties in Beijing. I'd like to hear from Secretary Carter.
We can't let stand the Chinese using this currency issue as a way of making inroads into what has traditionally been a strength of ours.
While we may try to shore up our financial dominance, we may also well be moving into a world where we are not financially dominant. I'm surprised not to hear the Secretary of Defense saying he needs more support for his military, that military action is going to be one of the tools that we are going to reach for more consistently.
I'll take that too, Madam Vice President. That scarcely does anything about a Chinese currency
Well,
move
I think we have to start
respect.
thinking big. We can't be bogged down. We
Oh,
have to
that's
think
thinking
about
sideways.
our intelligence operations as well.
We have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because, frankly, our central bank has been slow. And there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve runs our payment system. Right. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era.
What about in 5 minutes if we hear that the world is trading oil in this digital yuan? What does that do to our economy? I think we really have to ask some of these questions so we don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for you to call a meeting every time something important happens. Thank you.
Here is the way that I'm going to summarize what I will read out to the President. Per the Secretary of State's recommendation that there will be a POTUS call to President Xi. We're going to talk about new avenues for cooperation. We need a strategy to, one, modernize our SWIFT system. I think the word was harden from cyber attack, from the North Koreans in particular. But we need to develop and present options to the president for a U.S. equivalent of a digital currency, either a private-public partnership or, if the Treasury is able to do it with the Fed, something that would be a public-only option. We need a strategy to resuscitate U.S. financial prowess, I think is the way you put it, Madam Vice President, and examine this idea of secondary sanctions and whether in the overuse of them we've actually undermined our ability to use them down the road. Does that all sound fine to you? Thank you very much. Okay, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good. Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we know the currency war has already begun. The strong dollar is destroying the emerging markets. And we have Gary Gensler there stating what the United States has to do. That they're behind the digital currency of China. the digital yuan, and we know they're going to be the new world reserve currency. But then who do we also have over in the emerging markets? That's right, Ripple, who's in trouble in the U.S., but is doing fine overseas. We see Ripple buying up XRP, and we also look at the leases. ODL is very important to these big institutions. You will be able to move millions, billions for a few pennies or dollars. And then we have the Fed causing the recession, which we're going to be going into a depression. Guys, they are shrinking all this liquidity to give the illusion that these big corporations are being crushed. So therefore, they can put together the agenda. Roll in the robots, algorithms, and drones while the masses are laid off. Remember, the NWO goes off problem, reaction, solution. And the solution is the programmable money, blockchain, and automation, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take over the economy and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And then also, what do we have, guys? I made a video about this a long time ago. And you guys know, those who've been with me from the beginning, I told you that Taiwan was that signal. Well, we hear the drums are beating. But first, they're going to crank up this currency war. And guys, we know this is Shemitah year, laying down the foundation of the fourth industrial revolution, which we see Biden got his Build Back Better bill passed, just switched the name to reduction of inflation. And we know what's going to cause a reduction in inflation. But we have earthquakes, floods, and even droughts. And we keep getting more and more narratives and distractions by the NWO. So therefore, they can run the money in the back door and start building. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows, when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Fed doesn't make a judgment on that. You know, we don't say there is now a recession, that kind of thing. So that if you think about what a recession really is, it's a broad-based decline across many industries that that's sustained for more than a couple of months. And what we have right now doesn't seem like that. And
the clown car of spin is chock full of them. Listen to this.
How worried should Americans be that we could be in a recession?
We're not going to be in a recession.
This is not an economy that's in recession.
We're not in a recession or in a pre-recession at this time.
The data over the second quarter is not consistent with an economy in recession.
The evidence is strong. We're not in a recessionary period. And
if things are going so great, though, then why is it the White House officials are trying to redefine recession?
No, we're not redefining.
Real soon, in the next month or two, it's going to be dramatic. It's going to fall off of a cliff. Because all the signs are there, the tick up in initial jobless claims and some of these other reports, it's right there. And as far as the unemployment rate, let's stop using that. When people drop out of the labor force and the unemployment rate goes down, that does not reflect a healthy jobs market. In fact, just the opposite. You know what's ironic? In this last jobs report, no one wanted to talk about the fact that 250,000 black Americans dropped out the labor force and 166,000 lost their jobs. Real people in this economy are getting crushed at this very moment, and we need real answers. No more public relations, accept what's happening so maybe we can deal with it. Someone said that the second quarter data doesn't suggest we're in a recession. It actually suggests we're in a depression. Dagan, new home sales came out 2 days ago. Average home prices are down over $100,000 in just 2 months from April to June. Almost every economic data point that came out, it didn't miss. Most of these things didn't just simply miss Wall Street consensus. They missed by a country mile. I would be very, very afraid about worrying too much about this recession talk because a lot of folks are going to soon be talking about depression talk. Let's figure out how to fix it. And by the way, stoking this thing with more money is how we got here in the first place. They need to stop forgetting about these so-called political wins ahead of the midterm elections and have a win for all of Americans.
Us up for deflation. I've been listening to your program. I heard Ken Langone talk about being in recession now. Jeremy Siegel, same. We think we're in a recession, and we think a really big problem out there is inventories, the likes of the increase of which I've never seen this large in my career, and I've been around for 45 years.
I want to reaffirm that the speaker has not confirmed any travel plans. and it is for the Speaker to do so and her staff. So we won't be commenting or speculating about the stops on her trip. We have been clear from the very beginning that she will make her own decisions and that Congress is an independent branch of government. Our Constitution embeds a separation of powers. This is well known to the PRC, given our more than 4 decades of diplomatic relations. The Speaker has the right to visit Taiwan, and the Speaker of the House has visited Taiwan before without incident, as have many members of Congress, including this year. The world has seen the United States government be very clear that nothing has changed. Nothing has changed about our One China policy, which is, of course, guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint U.S. PRC communiques, and the 6 assurances. We have said, and we have repeatedly said, that we oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We have said that we do not support Taiwan independence, and we have said that we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. We have communicated this directly to the PRC at the highest levels, including as recently as last week in the phone call between President Biden and President Xi.
And I've seen that some very bellicose comments, like they see that as almost a military move by the United States if the Speaker, a civilian, were to land in I guess what they think is sovereign territory. But that seems like a stretch. Do you think they would actually follow through on that, honestly?
Well, there are a lot of people who are concerned that what could happen is that China, because we're
going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends. So therefore, we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.